Since starting in medical school, I've spent a stupid amount of time studying for upcoming exams, and since I've graduated, I've still had to keep studying whilst I'm working as a doctor. I've probably further compounded the issue by then choosing to take up another degree, but this means I've spent a lot of time sat at a desk. Now, because of university, I've moved around from university halls to various university flats, and then when I started working as a doctor, I had to move to a different part of the country, and then I moved to another city, and basically I've been moving around a lot. I've never really had a permanent workspace. Don't get me wrong, I've had desk setups, and I'll show you a few here, but I've always had the feeling that I'm going to have to move in a couple of months or in a year. However, now that I've finally got my own home, I can now have my own desk setup. And that's what this is. In this video, I'm just going to go through my new desk setup for 2023. So I guess we better start with the desk itself then. So this is just one of the basic Adasan desks from IKEA. The reason I picked this desk was because I wanted something that was relatively cheap, but also came in a 160cm by 80cm size. Basically, I wanted a big desk to have a lot of room to do my work. But you can get a couple of different versions of this desk from IKEA. So there's a 120 by 70cm size, which is slightly smaller. And both sizes also come in a sit-stand variant. However, one I've got is just a regular one, but the reason I like it is because I much prefer having that extra real estate for work, and to be honest, it does fit easily into this room as well, which is quite good, so I'm sort of maximising the space. And as I said before, you can get a sit-stand version of this desk, but it's actually double the price. And I think if I was going to pay that kind of money for a sit-stand desk, I'd get a desk that's much sturdier surface, like actual wood, for example. One of the problems with the Adasan desktop is it's essentially hollow and made from a weaved cardboard with a wood veneer over the top of it. And I've heard of horror stories where people have tried to clamp a monitor to the desk, and the clamp has essentially crushed the corrugated cardboard, resulting in the monitor slamming into the desk and damaging the monitor. Annoyingly, the desk also scratches really easily, and you can see from here that I've managed to scratch it within about 2 seconds of actually having the desk in the first place. However, for a relatively simple, cheap desk that's big enough and does what it says on the tin, it works really well, fits into the room nicely, and does exactly what I want. So this is the Huawei MateView GT Sound Edition 34-inch monitor. It's an ultra-wide curved monitor with 3440 by 1440 pixel resolution. It has a 165Hz refresh rate and is technically aimed at those wanting an ultra-wide monitor for gaming. However, whilst occasionally I will use it for light gaming, I tend to use the monitor for connecting it to my MacBook Pro, which is a 13-inch M1 2021 edition. And I appreciate this isn't the most ideal monitor to be using with my MacBook Pro, but it does offer a single USB Type-C cable connectivity, whilst also providing charging, which is useful for just unplugging the MacBook and popping it in my bag ready to go to work. I've also never had an ultra-wide monitor before, and I do really like having all the extra screen real estate. It's been great for essays, research projects, and just sort of general uni stuff. On top of that, it makes editing so much easier. You can see so much more of the timeline in Final Cut Pro. The more unusual aspect of this monitor is the speakers. Essentially, the stand that the monitor comes with is a soundbar. It literally clips onto the back of the monitor and is a stand. Now, the soundbar is okay-ish quality, but for things like video editing, I'm going to default to headphones. The soundbar itself is touch sensitive, so you can control the volume by swiping on the soundbar. And if you like RGB lighting, you can choose the colour of the light. I just tend to keep it a white colour. The stand itself is fairly adjustable in terms of height, and there's a bit of versatility in terms of moving the screen. One issue is, not that I'm planning on mounting the monitor anytime soon, but you can't utilise the soundbar if the monitor is mounted. This is because, as I mentioned before, the soundbar and the monitor stand come together, they're attached, there's no way to separate them. This means that if I ever do want to mount the monitor, I'm going to have to get some speakers. Another important thing to mention about the Huawei monitor is you can't buy it in the States. You can't get it in America simply because the Huawei isn't available over there. So you can get it in the rest of the world, including Europe, and that's how I've managed to get hold of it. Now, moving on to the laptop itself. This setup is run from a MacBook Pro M1 13-inch 2021 edition. Basically, I think it's great. I'd never had a MacBook before, but after a period of time getting used to Mac OS, having come from Windows, I actually really like it. At the time, I bought the base model, so it's 8GB of memory, 256GB SSD storage, but for what I'm using for it, it actually works really well. I've got it sitting on a 12 South Book Arc matching space grey stand, which sits nicely behind the monitor and helps to keep some of the cables out of the way as well. So now for the desk mat. For this, I had a bit of a debate about going for either a Grove-made desk mat or an oaky wood desk mat. I knew I wanted the medium plus size for the desk. I don't really like it when the mat sits under the monitor, and I like to be able to push the mat forward out of the way if I need to write something down. In the end, the reason I chose the oaky wood desk mat was because I liked the fact I had cork on the underside, which stops the mat slipping on the desk. And I also liked the fact the oaky wood desk mat was a lot cheaper and it didn't have to be shipped from America, so that helped as well. I do really like the desk mat, and it's a sort of felt material, and it's in a space grey colour, and it matches perfectly with the keyboard and the mouse, but I have noticed that dog hairs do like to stick to it, which isn't ideal when you have 3 Jack Russells. So now moving on to the keyboard. For the keyboard, I've got a Keychron K1 SE wireless low profile mechanical keyboard. I've never quite gotten used to using a full mechanical keyboard, but I do like using the low profile variant. This is an 80% keyboard with no number pad, which I would rarely use anyway, so there wasn't much point in having it, and I like the extra space. For the switch type, I've gone for the Keychron low profile mint switches, which are awesome and sound really good. Because of the mint switches, you get a sort of early feedback when you hit a key. I think it's called the early tactile bump. And I found that since using this type of keyboard, my typing's actually a little bit faster. Also, because it's backlit and the switches are green, it does reflect and give a sort of teal coloured light when you have the backlighting on the keyboard. Now for the mouse. Unsurprisingly, I've gone with an MX Master 3. And because it's not the newest 3S version, it still makes that clicky sound when you press a button, but I'm not spending hundreds of pounds to replace the mouse simply so that it won't click. The mouse itself is really good, and being able to customise the buttons just saves time. If you've watched any desk setup video, basically you'll find that everyone uses a MX Master mouse, unless you're left-handed. And I'm not really sure why they've never brought out a left-handed variant, but I'm pretty sure Logitech just hates people who are left-handed. That's basically the conclusion I've come to. And one good thing about the mouse, keyboard and desk mat is they're all sort of in keeping with that sort of dark grey colour, so they all fit together really well, looks really good. So as I mentioned before with the soundbar, it's not the best quality, so I tend to use headphones when I'm trying to edit on Final Cut Pro, just to get a better idea of the sound quality. So I do have the very overpriced but at the same time awesome AirPods Max, and have them in the green colour. The noise cancellation works really well. It's great when using Final Cut Pro or just trying to zone everything else out when you're trying to get some work done. I like the green colour and it matches everything. It's on my desk, mainly the plants. And I do have a ridiculous amount of those surrounding the desk. I also have AirPods, so if I'm watching something on my laptop or I'm just doing a bit of light work or whatever and want to listen to some music, I'll normally just pop my AirPods in because they're just easier, and I've got 2 sets of them as well, so they just sort of sit on my desk in this little, what's essentially a cup holder, but I just use it as a AirPod holder essentially. The reason I've got 2 sets of them is because I got one free with my iPad and I've got another set free with my MacBook when I purchased it, and the one I got with my iPad meant I've got the first generation AirPods and then I've got the second generation when I got my MacBook. It is really good having 2 sets because if one runs out of battery, you've got another pair ready to use, and it just stops you having to recharge them all the time. So I haven't talked about the chair yet. This is the IKEA Alefjell. I've butchered the pronunciation of that, but anyway, desk chair, and it comes in a sort of golden brown colour. For an IKEA product, it's really comfortable, looks pretty decent, and I feel it fits well with everything else in the room. It moves about okay-ish on a carpet, and it's adjustable to the height of the desk, so it actually works really well with the Dyson desk. Compared to some of the ridiculously high-end ergonomic chairs that you can get, it's not actually too badly priced, and it's really comfortable. And to be honest, I wanted this chair for a while, and it was a nightmare trying to get a hold of it. IKEA had been sold out for ages, so when it eventually did come back in stock, I just went away and got it straight away. Now that I've gotten it, I have no plans to change it anytime soon. It's comfortable, does what I wanted to do, and I'm actually really happy with it. Now for the lighting. Well, basically I've got 2 Philips Hue play bars behind the monitor, and they give off a sort of really good amount of light. You can control them with your phone, and it basically stops you having to put the harsh main light on all the time. For whatever reason, I have a tendency of putting them to a sort of warm orange colour during the day, or a sort of bright white light if it's in the morning and I'm just trying to wake up. We're hoping to have some more Philips Hue bulbs in other rooms, as they're just really convenient to have. And if you've already got the app and you've already got the hub set up, it just works really well. That's the thing I didn't realise initially when I was buying the Philips Hue play bars, was you need the hub set up to actually get them to work through the app. For what I remember, the hub's called the Bridge, and basically it pairs with all your lighting. So what you do with the Bridge is you essentially plug it into your router, and then basically you set it up that way, and it's actually really easy to set up. I do also have some additional lighting which you can see up here, and that's just a bulb that sits on a floating desk. It's kind of one of those sort of Edison style lamps. It's more just for decorative purposes than an actual source of light, if you see what I'm saying. So I guess now moving on to the plants. Somewhere in the realms of last year, I developed a little bit of an indoor houseplant obsession, and I ended up buying quite a few of them. And some of them were apparently easy to look after, and some of them survived, some didn't, but that was a bit of a learning curve. However, like I said, I was successful with some of them, and the ones I've got on my desk now are all around about a year old, and most of these seem to be doing pretty well. On my plant stand, I have 3 plants, and starting at the bottom, I have a ZZ plant, which to be honest, I find arguably my easiest plant to look after. I've had a couple of new shoots from it since I got it, and it's survived my move back down from Glasgow without any issue. Second on the stands, I've got an aloe vera plant, which is absolute chaos. It's grown really well, but it's just grown really wide and likes to span over a big large area, which is kind of annoying. And then finally I've got my snake plant, and provided it gets watered weekly, it basically takes care of itself, and that sits on the top. I actually have 3 snake plants in this room. One on the plant stand, one on the floating shelf, and one in the corner by the bookshelf. Now on the desk itself, I have a cast iron plant. When I first got this, I placed it a bit too close to a window in the summer and it got a little bit burnt on some of its leaves, but it's finally got a new leaf coming through. It does take a while to grow. Since getting houseplants, so I have found that I really like having houseplants around my desk. I do appreciate the fact that they take up a lot of room, but it's just nice having a bit of greenery when you're cooped up inside and you're trying to get through some work. Finally, for the poster. Now, why does a random doctor in the UK have a poster of a small town in the middle of Midwestern America? Well, so I found the poster in my grand's basement, which had been flooded at the time, but the poster survived, so I took the poster out and got it framed. I thought it looked pretty good above my desk, so I've had it for a little while, but now that I've got a permanent setup, I've actually managed to be able to put it up on my desk. But anyway, as I said in the beginning of the video, if you liked anything in this video, I'll leave a link to it in the description down below. Please leave a comment if you have any suggestions, if there's anything you did like, anything you don't like. All feedback's welcome. Hopefully you found this video useful. If you have, please give it a like and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.